U.S.-Russia Business Council comprises about 250 companies. 80% of them are American companies, but Ed, yes, we do have some Russian members and some third country members as well. And they're there, and we have existed now for 17 years because they recognize the enormous potential of the Russian market. And that has been through very difficult times, the ruble crisis of August 1998, and through the period that I understand people have discussed in detail here, the last from 2008, the low point of our bilateral relationship. But they have had those who have been there, those who have made a long-term commitment to the country, have had a very positive experience. And I can start by saying that in most cases, our membership say that they have seen, those companies that sell goods and services to Russia, they have seen growth in the range of 20% per annum over most of the last 10 years. Many of them say that they see higher margins, higher revenue growth in Russia than in most other emerging markets, including China. It's evident to anyone who's spent much time in Russia, at least in Moscow and St. Petersburg, which is maybe the same thing, but that Russian consumers have a very strong predilection for high-quality, Western-style goods and services. That was especially evident over the boom. And in many cases, iconic American brand products are symbolic of that quality of life. These range from fast-moving consumer goods to automobiles. Companies such as, and I'll name a few of them. I have many member companies, and I'm always reluctant to name a few without naming them all, but I think these illustrate the point. Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Procter & Gamble, Ford, GM, Boeing, Microsoft, Caterpillar, and a number of others. They've all seen a huge acceptance of their products in the Russian market. And they see that many of them say that they have only tapped the very top of the market, and they see growth potential there enormous over the next decades. Many of the companies that I mentioned have taken the next logical step, which is to set up manufacturing operations in Russia. And I am very pleased to say that today, outside of Moscow, in Verona, John Deere opened a new manufacturing facility. It represents a $125 million investment that will be employing 300 people. And among other things, they will be importing American-made components and using American technology. Case New Holland, another manufacturer of construction and agricultural equipment, has announced recently a manufacturing joint venture with the Kamaz company in Tajikistan, a major manufacturer of trucks. Boeing has had a long-standing joint venture with VSMPO to manufacture titanium parts for its whole line of commercial aircraft, including the 787. And in addition, it has a design facility in Moscow that employs something in the order of 1,500 Russian engineers, scientists, and technicians who have closely collaborated on the development of some of the newest airframes. And I think this illustrates very well how investment by high-technology companies can keep Russian talent, Russian brains in Russia working on a 24-hour cycle with their counterparts throughout the world. Demographic trends are also worrying. Despite years of relative peace and stability, the population is declining. The UN projects that it will shrink by 26 million to 116 million in 2050, and economists say that one of the principal determinants of long-term economic growth is population of skills. That should be a major concern. Rosstat, the state statistics agency, not long ago said that the economically active population of Russia is declining by 1 million each year. And the health of the population is another major issue, raising concerns about the future size and productivity of the workforce. Washington, of the Business Development and Economic Relations Working Group, that's the LOC Nabiulina Group, where their first formal full interagency session, and they will be talking about issues such as expediting visas in the U.S., making the process much easier. I think it's generally recognized it's very hard to get technicians, scientists, engineers, visas, a long waiting process, and we think that that creates an impediment, not just for Russian companies trying to send their experts to the United States, but American companies that want to bring their own employees here often can't get them visas. It's a very frustrating situation. And on the Russian side, we hope to see elimination of arbitrary rules and quotas for work permits. That would be a very beneficial movement. We also hope for progress in many other areas. Encryption technology for high-tech equipment. Removal of export controls, and Defense Secretary Gates gave a speech last week in which he outlined the creation of a new federal agency which will facilitate the issuance of export permits. That's a very positive development for us. We would hope that the Russian government, now that the economy is back into a growth phase, would remove tariffs on cars and agricultural machinery imports that were enacted as an anti-crisis measure in January of last year. We also hope, and Secretary Rogov referred to the WTO negotiations. We hope that the confusion concerning Russia's intent of going forward with its unilateral accession process or going via its negotiations through the customs union is clarified. The problem for many of our companies is, what's the real position? Is Russia going to go straight, continue with its negotiations, or is it going to go through a much more complicated, time-consuming procedure by trying to come up with a harmonized tariff schedule with its two other partners? Right now, it's difficult to imagine a company establishing a major supply chain node in Russia if it doesn't know whether Russia is going to belong to the WTO. You don't want to be dependent on a location for a critical component in your manufacturing process and not know that in the event of an arbitrary action by a trading partner, you could not go to a dispute resolution panel in Geneva and to get some redress to that problem.